Welcome to We Hope in God channel. We are diving into a really fascinating reflection today. It actually comes directly from a powerful, quiet time shared by you, our listener. And it's all about this biblical theme of, well, divine preparation and finding comfort in God's perfect timing.
That's right. And what's so interesting, I think, is how the source material connects two chapters. I mean, they're separated by hundreds of years, totally different situations.
Right.
One's about rules for wilderness tabernacle service. The other is about, someone rising up in Egyptian politics.
Wow, okay.
But putting them together gives this, really clear insight into God's precise scheduling for your life.
Okay, so our goal here isn't just to retell a story. We want to really unpack the grace, the insight that came from this particular reading. It's about trusting God's timing makes sense, maybe especially when we feel stuck, in such something.
Yeah, when things feel restrictive.
Yeah, exactly. We want this deep dive to really hit home that, well, he never makes mistakes. Okay, let's analyze this connection, this scriptural alignment. So we start with the foundation. It's deep in the law, the book of Numbers. God's training the Israelites here. Yeah, they're in the wilderness. He's turning former slaves into this disciplined, holy nation.
And our focus is very specific. Numbers chapter 4, verse 3.
Okay,
Right.
chapter 4. This chapter is all about the Levites. That's the tribe picked for service at the tent of meeting, the tabernacle.
The portable sanctuary.
Right, they had to move it through the desert. And the source material really points out how meticulous God was. He detailed, tribal positions, the marching order, exactly who did what.
Super organized.
Very. But the key detail, the thing that kind of sets up this whole reflection, is the age requirement for serving there.
Ah, yes. Numbers 4.3. It says to count the men, let me get it right, from 30 to 50 years of age who come to serve in the work at the tent of meeting. 30 years old. That was the starting point for this specific high-level service. And, it wasn't just a random number.
Oh.
Think about it practically. The Levites' work. It was hard physical labor. They were taking down huge wooden frames, carrying heavy curtains, sacred objects across rough terrain.
Not just praying then.
Not at all. They needed to be physically mature. And also, crucially, they needed the wisdom, the self-control that comes with, adulthood to handle holy things properly.
Makes sense. Physical stamina and spiritual seriousness.
Exactly. Both are required.
So we have this clear rule from God for service, age 30, signifying readiness, maturity. Now, what's really fascinating is how this specific legal detail connects to a totally different story in Genesis, a personal one, a political one.
Yes. We jump way back to Joseph. He's in Egypt, obviously not a Levite, serving a pagan pharaoh, totally outside the law of Moses context.
Right.
But look at Genesis 41, verse 46. The source points straight to it. Joseph was 30 years old when he entered the service of Pharaoh, king of Egypt.
Wow, 30 again.
30 again. The exact age God mandated for the Levites' spiritual service in the wilderness is the exact age Joseph steps into this massive secular leadership role in, the world's superpower at the time.
It can't be just a coincidence.
Doesn't feel like it. It really speaks to this underlying principle in God's plan, doesn't it? That readiness for significant service, whether it's, sacred or secular, often lines up with a certain level of tested maturity. Age 30 seems to be a benchmark here.
Okay, now here's where it gets really, really interesting, especially if you feel like you're in a waiting period right now. We need to look at Joseph's life before he turned 30.
Right. If 30 was the starting line for his big role.
What was the training? Honestly, looking at his 20s from our perspective, it seems like the opposite of preparation, just pain, powerlessness, injustice.
Yeah, if you think of his life as God's curriculum, it was a tough school. Brutal, even. Starts with betrayal by his brothers, sold into slavery. That's a lesson in humility right there. Realizing that even with his dreams and talents, he was completely dependent. Then, the false accusation, prison. He spends years there, not as some respected advisor, just forgotten.
And the reflection really highlights that waiting. It wasn't short. Remember, he interpreted the cupbearer's dream, asked him, hey, remember me to Pharaoh.
Yeah, a little glimmer of hope.
But then Genesis 41, verse 1 hits you. When 2 full years had passed, 2 full years later, Joseph was still stuck in that prison, forgotten.
And that brings up that question we all ask sometimes about our own delays, right? If God knew Joseph was going to rule, why let him sit there forgotten for 2 extra years? Couldn't that suffering have been avoided?
Yeah, exactly. Why the pause? Why that extra pain? It feels unnecessary sometimes.
Well, the analysis that the listener shared, the grace they received from this, is actually deeply comforting on this point. The delay wasn't some divine oversight or mistake. It was Precision engineering.
Precision engineering. How so?
Think about it. If Joseph had gotten out earlier, maybe after just helping the cupbearer, what would have happened? Maybe he becomes just another servant, maybe a court interpreter. Useful, but not second in command.
Okay.
God waited. He waited until Pharaoh had that specific dream. The big one. The one about the famine that threatened the whole nation. The whole world, really. A dream that needed not just interpretation, but immediate, large-scale, strategic action.
So the timing of the crisis was key. Joseph couldn't just be released. He had to be summoned for that specific moment.
Exactly. When Joseph was finally called out, he had to go straight from the dungeon to the chariot,
Right.
ready to manage a global food crisis instantly.
Any earlier release wouldn't have required that kind of immediate total promotion.
Precisely. His emergence at age 30 was perfectly timed for maximum impact and the absolute necessity of his authority. From a human standpoint, like the reflection notes, he was totally disqualified.
Yeah, foreigner, a slave, a prisoner. No political background.
Zero qualifications on paper.
Yet the core comfort that you, the listener, received is this really powerful assurance. Those years that look like setbacks, the slavery, the prison, they weren't wasted.
Yeah.
They were the training ground. Absolutely indispensable. Slavery taught him humility, how to manage a household. Prison taught him patience, how to deal with bureaucracy, maybe even empathy for others suffering.
Skills he absolutely needed to rule millions effectively.
So every setback was part of the curriculum. Every restriction was actually preparation in disguise.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why we can feel so sure, based on this reflection, that God never, ever makes mistakes in the timing of our lives.
So if we take Joseph's story and sort of zoom out to the bigger picture, this reflection offers a really profound lesson for you listening, for how to view whatever season you're in right now.
Yeah.
Maybe you feel restricted, maybe you're in what feels like a professional wilderness, going nowhere fast, or maybe even a personal prison of some limitation or difficulty. The source material really encourages us, instead of seeing this as just wasted downtime, to see it as active training. God is doing something.
That's a shift in perspective, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because we tend to think training looks like, getting a degree, climbing the ladder, visible success.
Right, external stuff. But Joseph's training was mostly internal. It was character development under intense pressure.
So the practical application that came out of this quiet time reflection is really about making a conscious choice.
Yeah.
A choice to trust God's timing, even when it feels agonizingly slow. Slower than our own plans or ambitions.
And the source specifically mentions the decision to, quote, walk humbly, to be faithful where I am.
Okay, faithful where I am. That sounds key.
It's the active part of the training, I think. Joseph didn't just sit passively in Potiphar's house or in prison. He was faithful in those roles. He managed Potiphar's household well. He managed the other prisoners responsibly.
He used the limited circumstances he had.
Exactly. He used the limited resources and opportunities of his restricted environment to actually practice the very skills, administration, leadership, integrity that he would need later on a massive scale.
So for you listening, if you're in that waiting room right now, like if maybe a career feels stalled, talents feel unused, circumstances feel way too small for you, the training isn't just in doing the wait. It's how you operate within that waiting period.
Right. Are you choosing faithfulness now? Are you working on integrity, patience, diligence with the small things you do have control over? Are you using your current, maybe limited opportunities to practice being trustworthy?
Because that's the real training.
That's the synthesis of the grace received here, believing that God is using this exact moment, the specific situation, to train you for his greater purpose. Whatever that purpose is, could be professional, could be family, could be ministry.
And the final comforting thought from the source is that prayer. To trust his perfect timing and really believe he never fails.
He never fails. Your 30 years old moment, that moment of readiness and release into purpose, it is coming. It's guaranteed in his plan, even if it looks completely different from how you imagine it right now.
That reframing is just so important. It means looking at the current waiting room, whatever it is for you, not as lost time, but as essential, specific preparation. Time needed for the service he has uniquely planned for you. #tag outro.
Wow. So this deep dive really showed us something incredible, didn't it? How that specific age, 30, required for the tough service of the Levites back in Numbers, powerfully mirrors Joseph's exact age of readiness for huge leadership responsibility in Genesis.
It's a remarkable parallel.
It really illuminates the detail, the perfect timing that's just inherent in God's plan for all of us.
Absolutely. And maybe we can leave you with this final thought to chew on this week.
Mhm.
It builds on these ideas of training and faithfulness that came from the source material.
Okay.
If Joseph's absolute lowest points, being a slave, being forgotten in prison, if those were actually his most critical, most essential training grounds,
Then what specific discipline, what virtue, or maybe what hard lesson is God teaching you right now in whatever your wilderness or prison looks like? What's he developing in you that is absolutely necessary for the service, the purpose he has planned for your future?
that's a deep question.
It is. And maybe the follow-up is, how can you lean into that? How can you actively participate in that hidden curriculum today, right where you are?
I waited in the wilderness, learning to obey, carried through the desert by his guiding way. Years of silent shaping, hidden in the night, training in the shadows, still within his light. Joseph stood in prison, yet his faith held strong. Every tear and trial became a faithful song. When the door was open, chains fell to the ground. God's perfect timing was the moment found. I will trust the waiting, though the path is long. He is never failing, he will make me strong. Through the pain and questions, he is leading still. In his perfect purpose, I surrender my will. You are faithful, always faithful. Every season, you are near. I will trust you, I will praise you. In your time, your way is clear. I waited in the wilderness, learning to obey, carried through the desert by his guiding way. Years of silent shaping, hidden in the night, training in the shadows, still within his light. Joseph stood in prison, yet his faith held strong. Every tear and trial became a faithful song. When the door was open, chains fell to the ground. God's perfect timing was the moment found. I will trust the waiting, though the path is long. He is never failing, he will make me strong. Through the pain and questions, he is leading still. In his perfect purpose, I surrender my will. You are faithful, always faithful. Every season, you are near. I will trust you, I will praise you. In your time, your way is clear. I waited in the wilderness, learning to obey, carried through the desert by his guiding way. Years of silence shaping, hidden in the night, training in the shadows, still within his light. Joseph stood in prison, yet his faith held strong. Every tear and trial became a faithful song. When the door was open, chains fell to the ground. God's perfect timing was the moment found.